Okay, let's go back. Where we left off, we just did that ripple delete. We're going to unlock video track 2, the one that we briefly locked down when we did that ripple delete so that none of that got taken away. So unlock that. Let's see. So I'm going to pull the playhead back and I'm going to play this. So what we did was we successfully took out a big chunk of this, but it's not even going to be noticeable. You guys were probably wondering, like, why are we taking out this chunk? It's probably the most important part. It really isn't. And we would know that in real life if we were listening to the music. So this is what we now have. Okay, all good. Huh?
That was actually pretty decent.
Yeah, not bad. Okay, for the time being, we're going to keep these tracks muted and locked. So mute audio 2 and audio 3, turn on the M button, and lock them both down. Audio 2, audio 3, they will not be conflicting. We will hear other things. We'll shut our audio bin, and we can move on.
Unlock video 2?
Yes, that was our first step. Yep,
Okay.
unlock video 2. Lock down audio 2 and 3. All right. So whenever we're mixing dialogue and music, which we are, we have talking going in audio 1 and then music, or at least instrumental, going in our other audio tracks. And especially when we have a lot of interesting B-roll, it's a good idea not to have the dialogue playing the entire duration. So instead, we're going to add a bit of variety by allowing the music to come forward in the soundscape, even if only for a few seconds when they're not talking. So our edit already includes a couple of audio gaps. We're going to create a third now. So in our timeline, select Interview Adam Jeff. It's towards, I think, type in 159.20 and see if that's a close point. Yep, it is. So Interview Adam Jeff. We're going to select this clip. So click on it with the selection tool to select it. And what we want to do here is we're going to nudge it down the timeline approximately 2 seconds. So how to do that is we're going to take our timeline playhead and we're going to bump it ahead to 2:03:00. So 2:03:00. With your selection tool, take Interview Adam Jeff and nudge it down to the right until the in point snaps to the playhead. So we created a little bit of an audio gap there where there is no talking, and we cut back to music.
I apologize. I didn't see what you did. Did you like drag it so that it takes out a chunk, or you
Move the whole thing. Yep.
Thank you.
Select the whole thing with the selection tool and then drag it, nudge it to the right until it snaps. Yeah, we're not changing in or out points or anything like that. Okay, so now Tyler talks, then it goes just to music, even though we have it muted right now, and then Adam starts talking again. All right, we are now going to add a reaction shot. So we're going to add a shot of Tyler acting all happy about the fog machine coming in. So by cutting from action to a shot of people reacting, you reinforce the emotion. So this is not a cinematography class or filmmaking, but you kind of have to understand why the B-roll is happening, why you're adding clips to help tell the story. So we're going to reinforce that emotion. Timeline, playhead. Snap it to the out point of, well, let's just go to a timeline. Let's see if this is close. 1:55:11. And we're going to snap it to the end point of Prod shooting Jeff Phillip. So on the B-roll, that's what we have, the end point of that clip. That's perfect. Twirl open your B-roll. We're going to go grab some more footage. We're going to find Prod, Tyler Dwight reaction. Tyler Dwight reaction. Drag it up into your source monitor. We can see there's no in and out clips. It's just a 4-second long duration clip that we have available. In our source monitor, we're going to bump our playhead to 2:03. You can see he's pointing. That's where we're going to press I. That's our in point. And then we're going to adjust the playhead in the source monitor forward to 307. And that's going to be our out point. So in at 203, out at 307. Okay, now we're going to take that clip that we just tweaked down. We're going to drag the video only icon into our timeline. Come on, drag. And snap it to where the playhead is. Snap the endpoint there. So they're reacting to the fog. So this is what it looks like right through here. I'll play it for us.
Love the fun.
Fog blast.
Okay, got it? Does that look good? So we go from the interview. While they're talking, we have that B-roll of the fog. His reaction.
Love the fun.
Fog blast.
Yeah. Okay, you got it. Love the fog.
Want to roll some camera?
All right, adding the last clip. Yay. The last shot in this edit is going to be a slow motion of the broom sweeping up all that confetti. So we need to find in our B-roll clip, prod sweeping confetti 60. 60 frames per second. So prod sweeping confetti 60 FPS. Drag it up into the source monitor and play it. And we made that one a slow-mo earlier. Remember, we changed the interpreting. So let me bring it back to the beginning. It's just a slow motion sweeping scene. In our source monitor, take your playhead to 715 and put an endpoint there. And then go to 1208 and mark an out point there. We're just going to use this part right through here where the broom comes closer and closer to the camera. Drag the video only icon onto the timeline video 2 track so that its in point snaps to the out point of the one we just put down, the interview Tyler. Or no, lied, don't put it there. Totally lied. Go to your timeline. Zoom out. We have to be able to see the end of this clip. So zoom out so you can see the end of your timeline. Use the minus key with the timeline activated. This is going to come down and we're going to snap it in on video track 2 so that it starts when the audio stops. So on video track 2, the endpoint of this snaps to the out point of audio 2. So when that green music stops, that's when the sweeping begins. And if we take our playhead down to it and we kind of scrub through this, you guys see an issue? Scrub through that clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's smaller. So the clip was natively 1280 by 720 pixels, and our sequence is 1920 by 1080. So the clip is smaller than the sequence. Adobe Premiere is going to give us a way to match that. So in our timeline, we want to choose this, choose the clip, not the endpoint of it. So click on the actual clip to get it highlighted in white. Right-click to get your contextual menu. And then we're going to choose Scale to Frame Size, which is about 3/4 of the way down. Scale to Frame Size. All good?
Yep.
That's lovely, isn't it? We can go back and twirl the B-roll bin shut. And there's one final marker in our sequence that we want to look at. I'm going to zoom out of my timeline a little bit. All right. We want to add a marker to the sequence in order to show where that final red clips are going to go. So the red, those are those high def 4K cameras, we want to add a clip in our sequence to show where that's going to come in. I'm sorry, a marker. I'm using all the wrong words. In our timeline, take the playhead to 23700. Zoom in on that. So this is where those final R3D clips are going to be put. You can see it's right after that lineup of all of the video 2 tracks. So with our timeline panel active as the window, we're going to click on the add marker. So there's either a button or you just push letter M. Now we have a marker in our actual timeline, and we'll know that that's where we want to put, when our playhead isn't there, we'll know that that's where we want to start that R3D footage. Do a file save as. 133 is the page. And I'm going to turn on, I don't want you to do this, I'm going to turn it on and we're going to watch it start to finish because this is where it is so far at this point. So I'm going to unlock and unmute and take that home.
My name is Jeff, and that
See any problems or hear any problems? Okay, I'm going to turn off the music.
I thought you said start to finish.
Huh?
I said I thought you said start to finish.
No, I'm playing it. Well, we need to hear them because the important part here, what I want you guys to notice now is when they're talking, quite often we cut to B-roll and we get really bored watching the same person talk over and over. We'd rather see little snippets of B-roll. And remember how our attention span is like 1 to 3 seconds before we want to see something else? So wherever there are gaps in the B-roll, we do need to see them talking at first, but we don't always need to see them talking. So we're going to watch where there's too much talking. So I'll start it from here. No sound whatsoever right now, because that's B-roll.
I'm Dwight, and I'm producing a music video with a crew here at 12 FPS. We're making a music video for a band called Poolside from Los Angeles.
They just flew in, and we wanted to sit down with them. We'd never met them before, so we just wanted everyone to kind of be on, you know, the same page as well as far as concept and video goes, as this all happened very last minute.
With this particular song, my only thing was that it has really insistent beat, kind of energetic beat, while everything else is super slow. And so the only thing that came to my mind is to accent that contrast through the video.
People came to the table with their video references. We watched a ton of music videos, which is something we like doing around here, so that wasn't a big deal. It didn't feel like work.
So tomorrow we begin bright and early. We're going to be walking into the studio.
Are you also hearing the differences in their voice from clip to clip?
I was gonna say it's
a soundstage next door
That can be
we
annoying.
It's a really large soundstage, and they're going to be sort of performing while they have some backup dancers.
I'm Sarah. I'm Jack.
Hi.
We're dancers.
Yeah, just kind of getting everything together. We're about to roll some camera. Wow, this is just moving so fast.
We're using a projector to project these animated images up on the screen behind the band.
Got a projection going. We got a little laser thing. Beautiful imagery happening. I can't wait. This is going to be awesome.
Back to B-roll.
I thought it was great when that fog first
So
came
that was
out.
the gap.
Just blasted on.
I love the fun.
Fog
Everybody
blast.
loved it.
So whenever we have these total gaps, we need something.
Yeah, we're approaching the final shots here. We're getting a wide shot, which is looks fantastic. Can't complain.
Yeah. Final stretch. Final stretch.
It's actually rolling right now, which is kind of cool, which is super meta.
Yep.
Awkward gap. B-roll. And then long awkward gap till we get to the sweeping. So I have the sound turned down. So that's what we have right now at this point. So what your homework / now work, if you want to do it, which I would recommend because you got everything right in front of you and it's nice and early, is you're going to go back and you're going to fill in some gaps with B-roll. So you guys need to be familiar with those B-roll clips, but like when Heidi was saying, so they came in and we sat down, there's a clip of them sitting around the table. Maybe that's a great place with Heidi. He talks about how they had to watch a bunch of videos. There are clips of them watching videos together. That might be the 2-second that you cut out to B-roll there. So I want you to fill in the B-roll, especially when they're being interviewed and they're saying something that we have B-roll footage that makes sense, and use the in and out points to use the part of the clip that makes sense, and bring it down into the timeline and do what you need to do to make it work. Where there's a gap and absolutely nothing going on, put in some random B-roll. This does not have to be perfect. Nobody's will be exactly the same, but you have to get used to how this works, okay? So that is your homework. What you're going to upload to me in Blackboard is at the end of it, save it, and it's going to end in PR Proj. I'll be able to open it and hit locate on my files and everything will flow into place. So it's a tiny file that you're uploading because it's going to use my media to find it all. Then the rest of the day or any time in between here, if you need to keep filming, go for it. If you have been filming and you are now ready to start uploading that to where you all can get it, put it on Google Drive or something, and start bringing in your own footage and making a rough cut, now that you kind of know how to throw things on tracks and move them around and do in and out points, now is the time to start working on the rough version of your real thing. And you're also going to see where, oh, this is boring. It's the same scene for 5 seconds. We need to do something different. Or we need to cut to a close-up of the keyboard or something like that. So as you make that rough cut, you're going to start seeing where you need to fill in or what else you need to do. Okay? So this has to be done now. Next week, we're going to do the bonus chapter, which actually is a PDF that I have in Blackboard, so you guys will have written directions to follow along with, which I'm sure will be a blessed thing. I am still recording. So we'll go through that, and once we get through with that chapter, whether it takes 1 or 2 times, hopefully closer to 1, then I'm going to ask for the next time we get together, I do see a rough cut of your commercial, because you will have 2 weeks again at that point to work on it. Make sense? It's going to at least be 2 weeks out. I'm not going to put a date on it yet, not knowing how far we get next week, but start thinking about it and playing around with it is the bottom line. Yep. And that I will just come around and view at your desks because I won't have the clips to link to it. So anything we do with your real project, I will be sitting with you and watching. Think about using clip and segment markers or clip and sequence markers when something happens or you want to remember something. So just kind of remember all these tips and tricks, and for now, for your homework, go put on your headphones, listen to this, go look for a B-roll clip that makes sense, put it in the source monitor, find the in and out points that illustrate what they're talking about perfectly, trim it down, drag it in, video track 2, and boom, we're good.
So do you want there to be perpetual video start to finish, like cut this complete?
Okay, so there does not, wherever there's a gap like we had, those have to be filled. You guys got that? Whenever there's a gap, you have to fill them. When they're talking, it doesn't have to be B-roll above them all the time. We definitely want to see the interview, but if they're saying something cool that we can cut to B-roll, that's when I want you to throw it in for a second or 2. It can come back
My
to
question is that there's got to be visual. From
yes,
start to finish.
except for when we get to after this big gap right here at the very end. Don't worry about filling that one. So they'll do this last interview. There is a slight gap here that you have to find something for, and then these B-roll clips at the end, and then you can stop at that point. Okay?
Is this due in the class or next week?
Next week. It's your homework. It's due in Blackboard by next week. Assuming it's easier to work on it here on these computers, you now have the rest of the time to work on that and or go shoot videos and or figure out how you're going to share your videos. The way they name these clips seems excessive when I'm reading them out loud, but it sure is descriptive and helps, doesn't it, when you guys are sharing clips? So even if you bring them in with generic names, once you get them on your computer, I would name them in a way that makes sense to you personally. It might not work for Jordan, but if it works for you, Nick, great. Name them how you need to. Okay? Alrighty, go make cool videos. This one is due in Blackboard by next week.